The NWCA All-Star Classic came back with a bang last night, or was it a bit lackluster? I'd love to know your thoughts, so make sure you comment down below. As we continue on, I'm going to give you the match results as well as my opinions on the overall event. It was awesome that the All-Star Classic actually came back this year, and I'm very happy that it did because we got a lot of great matchups. And if all you're interested in is the results, they'll be scrolling along the bottom of the screen as well as over here in this graphic. Now, the match actually started out the night in Austin, Texas on FloWrestling with Pat McKee beating Kyson Terrakina. This was a great way to start the night with a pin in the second period. Lucas Bird then came out and beat Mikhail McGee of Arizona State 3-2. And after Lucas Bird had taken a loss earlier this season, it was a pretty good way for him to start the night. Then we got into the next matchup, which was Willa Wand beating Bryce Andonian. This was where things weren't like that exciting in these two matches here. Willa Wand ended up beating Bryce Andonian just like Bird beat McGee. That score was 3-1. But then we got into one of my favorite matches of the entire night, actually. And this was Rocky Elam beating Jacob Warner. Yes, you heard that right. Rocky Elam of Mizzou beat him in overtime 8-6. And this wasn't just like a close match like a couple of these other ones. To me, this was pretty dominant win. 3 takedowns he earned. He actually earned a quick takedown right off the bat at the beginning of the match. And then another takedown throughout it. Now, Warner was able to get a last-second reversal in the third period, which got him back on the scoreboard, got him back in the match. And when Elam shot in on the restart, it was actually probably a bad move at the end of the third period because Warner was able to get a takedown there, and they tied it up going into the sudden victory where Elam ultimately got the takedown to win the match. This was a big upset, and I'm telling you, if Elam can get over Stephen Buchanan of Wyoming, he's a serious threat to win a national title. Of course, there is not Beard's in the way, but of course Max Dean as well, Nino Bonacorsi. This is a crazy weight, but not the craziest weight of the night. Now, speaking of a Penn Stater, as we talk about Max Dean, one of the other big matchups, you can call it an upset if you want, depending on how you look at things. Currently, Kirkfleet is ranked above Cassiope. That's Kirkfleet of Penn State over Cassiope at heavyweight. However, Cassiope has always beaten Greg Kirkfleet. Now, Kirkfleet came in firing, got a takedown in the first period to go up, and with a escape and another takedown, Cassiope was then able to get a reversal, making this a really tight match, actually. Now, Cassiope went down and was in on the legs a couple of times after an escape, but at the end of the match, when he was in on that takedown, Kirkfleet just... Listen, I thought he had him dead to rights at the end of that match, but and this is that position here. He had him dead to rights, and Kirkfleet was just able to get his hips out, get his hips into Cassiope, and ultimately won 8-5. Kirkfleet is one of those Penn Staters. You start talking about, like, can Penn State have 5 national champions this year? Kirkfleet is a serious threat if he can get over Colton Schultz of Arizona State. The other Penn Stater that came up right after him was Aaron Brooks. Now, Brooks beat Keckeisen. He put a whooping on Keckeisen. It was 12-8. It was the final score, almost a major decision. Now, with that being said, I have to give props to Parker Keckeisen of Northern Iowa at 184 because he got a takedown on Aaron Brooks at the end. Now, Keckeisen is I believe number 2 at the weight right now, above Trent Hidley, just because they wrestled last year and he beat him. But Trent Hidley, I think, probably has the best chance to beat Aaron Brooks after seeing this match of total domination. I think Aaron Brooks has, I've said it before, but he's stepped into that upper echelon of Penn State wrestlers, scoring bonus points as in many of these matches. I mean, this is the number 2 guy in the country, and he just put an absolutely butt whooping on him. And I wouldn't say it shocked me, but it did definitely impress me. And that moves us into a crazy matchup. This was at 141, and yeah, these matches were out of order. That's just kind of how FloWrestling handled the event, and we'll be talking more about like the overall structure of the event, because I had a fun time watching, but I did have a couple of things I want to talk about. But let's talk about that 141 match, because Andrew Alvarez defeated Cole Matthews of Pitt. Alvarez of Northern Colorado. Now, what you may be asking is, wasn't Cole Matthews supposed to wrestle Real Woods? Yes, he was. And I did some digging into this. I don't know exactly the bottom line. It appears that Woods may have like a little bit of injury, maybe struggling a little bit with something minor. I wouldn't put like too much concern into this. I just think it's a small kind of mishap. I think Brand said something last week about him being kind of day-to-day on whether he'll wrestle or not. Who knows? Maybe he could be a little bit sick, but I hope he comes back. But with that being said, Alvarez was able to get a takedown at the end of the match, or excuse me, get a score on a reversal in the second period. I was confusing matches here. Get a reversal in the second, and he ended up winning this match 3-1 over Matthews. Matthews just really didn't open up enough to get a win here. You know, Alvarez just out-wrestled him. That's just how it went. He didn't do too much, Matthews, and so Alvarez took it, and he took the number one spot now at 141. I guess that's what happens. Woods had the chance to get that number one spot, but Alvarez now came in, and that, I think, is going to help out. If he can go undefeated throughout the season, that can get him a big top seed at the NCAA tournament, especially depending on, you know, whether Matthews and Woods and all these guys wrestle again at one of these open tournaments, Cliff Keen, Midlands, depending on where everybody's going. And then we got into some of the last big matches of the night. And the headliner was supposed to be, well, the headliner technically was Starachi and Mackay, but one of the other big ones was Carr versus Monday. And I'm going to tell you what, this was probably the most boring match of the entire night. I mean, it was boring. 2-1 was the final score in favor of David Carr of Iowa State at 165. He earned an escape, and he earned riding time on Monday to win the match, and that ultimately got him. You see these photos here are what actually David Carr tweeted out. I thought this was pretty cool to see the throwback, and yes, it was an awesome legacy match, but man, I wish they would have opened up more and just let things fly, especially because it didn't matter. I mean, with Monday going back down to 57 and Carr staying at 65, who cares if either of them lost? It was just a chance to open up. Let sparks fly. Well, that didn't happen. And it didn't happen as much also in the next match, whenever with Keegan O'Toole of Mizzou and Dean Himedy of Wisconsin. This was another match at 165 pounds, and O'Toole, I mean, he did open up. He ended up beating Himedy 6-1 with a riding time point and showing that he is the true top 165 pounder. I'm sure Carr was kind of eyeing O'Toole up, seeing what he's going to be able to do to beat him towards the end of the year, and actually in their dual meet in the Big 12, it's going to be a big rivalry there, which I'm excited for, which I'm happy that those two didn't wrestle in this match because we're going to be seeing it so much often. But Himedy still wrestled a pretty tough match, but O'Toole was just the dominant guy, and that moves us into my absolute favorite match of the night at 149 pounds. And boy, let me tell you how wild these rankings are. So Austin Gomez and Sammy Sasso was a fireworks match, and you see this from FloWrestling. This is where all this video is coming from, streamed live on FloWrestling. So Gomez was getting beat pretty bad by Sammy Sasso in this match. As a matter of fact, Sasso earned a takedown, 2 takedowns up, and I believe one was in the first, one was in the second, and I'm like, oh my gosh, Sasso is actually going to beat Gomez. Not that I thought it was like a crazy upset or anything, but it would throw a wrench into all of the rankings that are currently out there. Now, Gomez just went turned into a superhero in the third period, because he just earned he just turned it up. He earned 3 takedowns in 20 seconds. And Sasso's not an easy guy to just take down. You see, this is one of them that I just showed, but Gomez just goes takedown, let up, takedown, let up, takedown, let up. And I'm like, what on earth is happening right here? Well, he finished with a final takedown to win that match. But Sasso he had an escape. He had a chance to get a takedown to win the match at the end. The final score ended up 10-8. But man, was Sasso attacking to the end, and was Gomez attacking the entire match. This is a match I really hope we see again. I know we're going to, with them both being in the Big Ten, but it was absolutely wild. Now, here's the weird thing that I want to discuss are these rankings. So currently, Yanni is still number 1, which I understand, but I disagree with. Yanni should not be number 1. He lost to Austin Gomez. He beat Sasso, and I know Gomez had that loss earlier in the season, but he still had some of the most dominant victories this year. And with that win over Yanni Diakomahalis, I don't care about that other loss. He should be the number one, having a win over Yanni and over Sammy Sasso. Those are the two most dominant guys at the weight. I understand that these freshmen are here. Paniro Johnson, I know Max Murin's here. Caleb Henson's having a solid case for a number one ranking towards, depending on how he does kind of throughout the middle of the season. But Austin Gomez should be the number one ranked guy. I'm sorry. And that actually leads into who should be the number one ranked guy at 174 pounds. And I think that is a very simple decision. That has to go to Carter Starachi because he defeated Mekhi Lewis. And while I wish Gomez and Sasso was the headliner of the night because of how fun that match was, Carter Starachi and Mekhi Lewis was a good match as well. He earned an escape in the second period. That was Starachi, and ended up earning a riding time, riding out Mekhi Lewis for the entire third period. And if I'm Mekhi Lewis, the next time that we wrestle, I'm not choosing down because you're going to need a takedown either way, so why let Carter ride you out? He had total control, total wrist control, total dominance on top. I was utterly impressed by Carter Starachi beating Mekhi Lewis. It wasn't like a very fun match, I'll say, but it was a pretty good match. And again, these are the results if you want to take a quick look at it. But one of the things that came up quite a bit throughout this event, one, there was the pricing of it because it is FloWrestling. You got to pay a full year up front, $150. And I wish they would make it a pay-per-view event and maybe get like a free month of FloWrestling. I understand, why they don't, I guess, but I understand that that's a complaint. The other complaint that I saw from the match, and I'll give you my opinions on this and my takeaways, is that this is something that Justin Bash tweeted out of Bashamania. He said, 2 initial thoughts from tonight's event. Wrestling is better with a team aspect and scoring. Wrestling is better with fans and attendance. And on the team aspect, yeah, I think it's more fun. There's more at stake. I still thought the All-Star match was fun. I like the matchups. The downside of that being the fact that we didn't get as exciting of matchups. I mean, the matchups in itself on paper were super awesome. Props to FloWrestling for getting that together, putting these matchups. I'm surprised that Penn Staters even competed in this event because Kale doesn't typically like to put the guys out there where they can risk an injury or this or that, but I still was utterly impressed by that and by the matchmaking. But oftentimes when you get matches like these, the top 2 ranked guys at the weight, similar to how you are in the national finals, oftentimes guys will wrestle a little bit controlled. It's not as fun because guys aren't opening up. What I kind of wish for is more of an event where we get some freshmen in there who, like Caleb Henson or Paniro Johnson or somebody that could be a threat this season or has proven themselves early on in the season and can just let sparks fly because they have nothing to lose. And I think you make for more of a fun match that way. Like, the best match was Gomez and Sasso, but everybody else, I think, was a little bit reserved. As far as the fans in attendance, sure, do I wish there were fans? Yeah, there weren't. I mean, there was a very limited amount, which I'm surprised by. I think it would make for a more exciting atmosphere. But overall, I think FloWrestling did a good job. I don't think it's their fault that the matches were a little bit lackluster throughout, because I think it was a fun event, but a little bit lacking in excitement besides a couple of matches. Anyway, I'd like to hear what you have to think. And if you're interested on the other latest wrestling headlines, you can check out this video right here.